Hello and welcome. I am Pranay Upadhyay and you are watching Namaste World, your daily window into the biggest stories shaping India and the world. We begin in South Asia, where India is set to host Arab foreign ministers in New Delhi to deepen strategic economic and security ties amid global uncertainty. In West Asia, Iran once again rejects President Donald Trump's threats as Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi warns the armed forces of Iran are ready to respond while US warships moves closer. Back in South Asia, another report, this time from a Swiss-based Center for Military History and Perspective Studies, reveals how India dominated the skies and forced Pakistan to back down during Operation Sindoor. And the biggest news of the day, India steps in as US-Iran tensions spike with President Donald Trump's threats. Deputy NSA of India, Pavan Kapoor, holds talks in Tehran. All that and more. Global flashpoints, power plays and stories that matter coming up in this edition of Namaste World. Tensions are rising sharply between the United States and Iran amid stalled nuclear talks, with President Donald Trump threatening Iran to negotiate a deal or else face military action by the United States. President Donald Trump renewed threats on Truth Social, warning that any future strike on Iran would be far worse than before unless Tehran negotiates a deal eliminating its nuclear weapon program. He also said the time is running out. A massive US fleet is now heading to the region, with the Central Command conducting readiness drills. Amid these rising tensions, yesterday India's Deputy National Security Advisor Pavan Kapoor held consultations in Tehran with his Iranian counterpart and also met Secretary of Iran's Supreme National Security Council, Mr. Ali Larijani. Meanwhile, Iran's foreign minister strongly rejected the threats from the US, saying its forces are prepared to respond powerfully to any aggression while remaining open to fair dialogue. Adding to the pressure, Saudi Arabia, the United Arab Emirates and Iraq have publicly stated that they will not allow their airspace or territory to be used for strikes against Iran. Inside Iran, anti-government protests driven by economic hardship are still being reported. Human rights organizations are accusing Tehran for a brutal crackdown against the dissenting voices, while Iranian government has alleged that the Western powers are instigating these protests. India is set to host a rare diplomatic gathering as Arab foreign ministers arrive in New Delhi with geopolitics, trade and regional stability on the agenda. What does this meeting mean for India's growing influence in Arab world? Here's a report by Farhan Khan.
India is set to host a major diplomatic gathering as more than 10 Arab foreign ministers converge in New Delhi for the second India-Arab foreign ministers meeting on 30th and 31st January. The meeting, only the second of its kind since the inaugural edition in 2016, signals a renewed push to deepen India's engagement with the Arab world at a time of intense regional and global churn. Foreign ministers from Qatar, the United Arab Emirates, Oman, Sudan, Palestine, Somalia, Mauritania, Comoros and Libya have confirmed their participation. Saudi Arabia will be represented by its vice foreign minister, while responses are still awaited from Lebanon, Syria and Morocco. Syria's participation remains uncertain due to ongoing domestic pressures. In total, representatives from around 22 Arab League countries are expected to attend. Arab League Secretary General Ahmed Aboul Gheit, a former Egyptian foreign minister and long-serving diplomat, will also be present, underlining the political weight of the meeting. One of the most notable developments is the attendance of Libya's foreign minister, representing the internationally recognized Government of National Unity. This marks the first visit by a Libyan foreign minister to India since the fall of Muammar Gaddafi in 2011. Signaling Libya's gradual return to wider international diplomacy after years of instability. The meeting will be chaired by India's External Affairs Minister Dr. S. Jaishankar, with visiting ministers also expected to pay courtesy calls on Prime Minister Narendra Modi. Discussions are likely to cover key geopolitical flashpoints, including the Palestinian issue and wider regional stability. Geo-economic cooperation will feature prominently, especially initiatives such as the India-Middle East-Europe Economic Corridor. Trade, investment, energy security, and counterterrorism cooperation are also high on the agenda, reflecting the growing strategic convergence between India and Arab nations. Preparations for the meeting have already gained momentum, with senior Indian officials engaging Arab ambassadors in New Delhi to align priorities and expectations. Adding an economic dimension to the diplomatic push, India and Arab countries will formally launch the India and Arab Countries Chamber of Commerce, Industry and Agriculture, or IACCIA, ahead of the main ministerial engagement. The chamber traces its origins to the 2016 Muscat Declaration and was further endorsed in the 2023 Delhi Declaration. Backed by the League of Arab States and key Arab trade bodies, the new chamber aims to institutionalize economic cooperation, boost trade flows, and strengthen collaboration in agriculture and industry. Taken together, the meeting highlights India's growing diplomatic and economic footprint in the Arab world and its ambition to position itself as a key partner in a region undergoing rapid transformation. With Farhan Khan, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
Fresh reports suggest Iran's supreme leader may be sheltering underground as US warships moves closer and protests shake the regime. With succession plan quietly in motion and tensions rising, is Tehran bracing for its most dangerous moment in decades? Here is a report by Srijita Sen Majumdar.
Is Iran's supreme leader hiding in a bunker? Is he planning his successor? And what does America's massive naval build-up in the Middle East really mean? Let's break this down. Reports are swirling that Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, Iran's 86-year-old supreme leader, has retreated to an underground bunker in Tehran. Not just any bunker, a fortified complex connected by tunnels, built to withstand attacks. Why now? Because the United States Navy's Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group has just arrived near Iran. Destroyers, firepower, the whole package. President Trump calls it precautionary, just in case, he says. But here's what makes this interesting. While Khamenei hides, Iran is brutally cracking down on massive protests. Over 5,000 people killed, according to Iranian state media. And now, the succession talk has begun. Multiple sources say Khamenei may have already designated a successor. Names floating around: his son, Mujtaba Khamenei. The Assembly of Experts has reportedly shortlisted 3 unnamed candidates. The regime is preparing for transition, just in case bombs start falling. Intelligence reports suggest Iran's government is at its weakest point since the Shah was overthrown in 1979. Trump has received multiple briefings on this. The pressure is mounting. Gulf countries are already scrambling, urging Trump not to attack. They fear a full-scale regional war. But here's the problem. If Khamenei is removed, experts warn the system stays intact. The Islamic Republic isn't a one-man show. It's designed for succession, for continuity. Remove one leader, another hardliner steps in. So the question isn't just about Khamenei anymore. It's about whether the entire regime can survive this perfect storm of internal revolt and external pressure. Iran has vowed to respond decisively to any threat. Trump's armada inches closer. Protests rage. Succession plans unfold in secret bunkers. The Middle East is holding its breath. What happens next could reshape the entire region. With Srijita Sen Majumdar, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
A new study by a Swiss think tank has reconstructed what really happened during the 88-hour Operation Sindoor. While focus remained on lost jet, India quietly gained air dominance and forced Pakistan to seek a ceasefire through DGMO channels. So how did the Indian Air Force turn the tide? Here's a report by Atishay Jain.
A reputed Swiss think tank has laid bare Pakistan's helplessness during Operation Sindoor. Till now, it is widely known that Pakistan was on the back foot during the 88-hour conflict. But this is the first detailed study to reconstruct how Asim Munir's forces were routed. For 4 intense days in May last year, the skies over the subcontinent saw one of the most serious air battles in decades. But the world fixated on the reported loss of an Indian Rafale jet. Swiss analysis says that was akin to missing the forest for the trees. The report's conclusion is blunt. India didn't just retaliate for the Pahalgam massacre. New Delhi took control of the skies and forced Pakistan to seek a ceasefire. While Pakistanis were gloating about downing an IAF Rafale on May 7, India didn't step back, it stepped up. The IAF shifted gears and launched a calculated large-scale campaign to dismantle Pakistan's air defences. This was systematic air warfare at its finest. Using long-range precision weapons, the Indian Air Force went after radar sites, surface-to-air missile batteries, and command nodes. In military terms, this is suppression and destruction of enemy air defences. In simple terms, India punched holes in Pakistan's protective shield with Scalp and BrahMos cruise missiles. And once that shield weakened, Indian strikes went deeper. Key Pakistani air bases were targeted with precision and impunity. Pakistan's Air Force runways and operational facilities were hit, which made it harder for Rawalpindi to stay in the fight. Instead of just trading blows near the border, India took the battle straight to the heart of Pakistan's air power. At the same time, Pakistan's attempt to hit back ran into a wall. The Swiss study highlights India's integrated air defense network worked in coordination with the Army's Akash Tir system. Layered missile defenses like Akash, Barak 8 and S-400 blunted Pakistan's retaliation and protected critical Indian assets. One of the biggest surprises of the conflict, the report says, was just how effective this defensive web proved to be under real combat pressure. By May 10th, the balance in the air had shifted decisively. With its air defense network degraded and its air bases on fire, Pakistan was no longer able to contest the skies in a meaningful way. India had achieved de facto air superiority, the absolute power to operate freely in contested airspace. According to the Swiss report, that was the time when he realized that he had his tail between his legs. Implications of those 88 hours will reverberate for longer. Operation Sindoor signals a doctrine shift. India has demonstrated that terror attacks traced back to Pakistan will invite not just limited cross-border strikes, but expensive conventional military action. Fast, deep, and punishing. The message from the skies is now unmistakable. The Indian Air Force has shown it can absorb an initial shock, regroup, and dominate the battle space. And if Pakistan refuses to abandon the use of terror as state policy, the next response may impose even greater military costs. One thing is clear, India's air warriors are not just ready for the next round, they are prepared to control it. With Atishay Jain, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
If you didn't already know, India made history on January 27 by sealing its biggest ever trade deal with the European Union. But this landmark moment didn't happen overnight. It took decades, 2 prime ministers, and a fundamental shift in economic thinking. So how did India finally get there? Here's a report by Jyoti Shukla.
2026, India made history. Prime Minister Narendra Modi and European Commission President Ursula von der Leyen announced the mother of all deals, a landmark free trade agreement between India and the European Union, covering 2 billion people, representing 25% of global GDP and creating a combined market worth $27 trillion. To understand this historic achievement, we must recognize the contributions of leaders from Indira Gandhi to Narendra Modi in building India's global trade architecture. The road to Brussels began decades ago. In the mid-1970s, India joined the Bangkok Agreement, now known as Asia-Pacific Trade Agreement, a preferential trade arrangement that marked one of India's earliest steps towards Asia-Pacific trade cooperation. In 1995, India joined the World Trade Organization under P.V. Narasimha Rao, a watershed moment that forced structural reforms and opened India's service sector to global competition. His Look East policy in 1991 shifted India's entire orbit towards Southeast Asia. Then came Atal Bihari Vajpayee, who began India's shift towards bilateral trade agreements, signing India's first ever bilateral free trade agreement with Sri Lanka in 1998, and the framework agreement with Thailand in 2003, setting the stage for the FTA expansion that followed. In 1991, as Finance Minister Dr. Manmohan Singh dismantled the Licence Raj and liberalised the Indian economy. As Prime Minister from 2004, he pursued an ambitious vision of integrating India into global value chains. Under his leadership, India signed the ASEAN Goods FTA in 2009, later expanding it to services and investment, along with groundbreaking agreements with South Korea in 2009 and Japan in 2011. Most remarkably, Dr. Singh initiated negotiations with the European Union in 2007 that culminated in today's historic deal. Though negotiations stalled in 2013, Dr. Singh had laid the foundation for India's most ambitious trade agreement. When Prime Minister Narendra Modi took office in 2014, he transformed this foundation. India's approach evolved from self-reliance toward embracing high-value free trade arrangements alongside domestic manufacturing strength. Since 2014, India has concluded and operationalized several major trade agreements that reshaped our global economic footprint. In April 2021, India operationalized its agreement with Mauritius. In May 2022 came the breakthrough UAE-India Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, completed in a record-breaking 88 days. By December 2022, India concluded the Economic Cooperation and Trade Agreement with Australia. This gave Indian exporters duty-free access to 96% of Australian tariff lines. In July 2025, the landmark India-UK Comprehensive Economic and Trade Agreement was signed. October 2025 saw the EFTA agreements with Switzerland, Iceland, Liechtenstein and Norway, bringing investment commitments worth $100 billion. In December 2025, India signed agreements with Oman and concluded negotiations with New Zealand. And now, in January 2026, comes the crown jewel, the India-EU Free Trade Agreement. After nearly 2 decades of negotiations, started by Dr. Singh in 2007, stalled in 2013, and relaunched in June 2022 by Prime Minister Modi, the agreement is finally concluded in 2026. The deal eliminates tariffs on over 96% of traded goods, provides services access across 144 EU subsectors, and creates a combined market of 2 billion people worth $27 trillion, while protecting India's sensitive agricultural sectors. The timing reveals deeper significance. At a time when the Trump administration has announced steep tariff measures targeting India and the EU, both economies need strategic alternatives. The mother of all deals is more than trade. It's a statement about rules-based partnership in a multipolar world. As Prime Minister Narendra Modi said, this agreement empowers India and EU's shared commitment towards democracy and the rule of law. President von der Leyen called it a signal that rules-based cooperation still delivers great outcomes. From 1991, when Dr. Manmohan Singh as Finance Minister liberalised India's economy, till now, in 2026, when the India-EU deal is concluded, India's journey has been extraordinary. Dr. Singh opened the doors. He built the foundations with ASEAN, South Korea and Japan. He initiated the EU negotiations. Prime Minister Narendra Modi accelerated the momentum. He secured agreements with the UAE, Australia, the UK, EFTA and brought the EU deal home. Together, through their vision and persistence, they have transformed India from an inward-looking economy to a confident, globally integrated power. Today, India has preferential trade access to dozens of countries across Asia, Europe and the Pacific, cementing its position as a global economic powerhouse. With Jyoti Shukla, Bureau Report, India Today Global.
As we wrap up today's show, here's a quick look at the top stories making waves around the world. Taiwan's Navy staged combat drills before Lunar New Year, rehearsing how to stop a possible Chinese sea invasion. Heavy overnight rains flood parts of Zambia's capital Lusaka, submerging homes and roads but causing no reported casualties. Ghana's malaria gains at risk as President Donald Trump's Iradona aid cut threaten life-saving vaccines for children. And that brings us to the end of today's edition of Namaste World. From breakthrough in technology and business to political developments and natural disasters. Stay tuned as we bring you the latest updates, key developments and more from New Delhi to New York. See you again tomorrow, same time, right here on Namaste World.